Welcome to the network, the educational podcast designed to help our community navigate the four areas of life that I like to call the funky four corners. I've had the opportunity to interview some of my favorite people with one goal in mind: to help the spiritual, physical, mental, and financial health of our people as we navigate this thing called life. Subscribe to the network. You never know, you might need it. In the words of the great American poet Sean Carter, you may know him as Jay-Z. I ain't past the bar, but I know a little bit. Enough to know you want to legally search my ish. We'll see how smart you are when the K9 come. I got 99 problems. And you know what? The 94 crime bill is one. Listen, this is the network, the educational podcast designed to help our community navigate spiritually, physically, mentally, and financially. I'm your host. My name is Michael Prejean. Today, in the Funky Four podcast studios, we have the world-renowned African-American and Diaspora Studies Department Chair at Xavier University of Louisiana, XULA. I need you to welcome to the stage with your real hands and with your virtual hands, Dr. Charlene Sagal DeCuir. How do you spell that? DECUIR. We are here to bring you Black history in bite-sized pieces, also known as the funkiest 15 minutes in Black history, aka Dr. Sagal DeCuir's History Quarter. Doc, welcome back.
Hi, good to be back.
We got the good doctor in the Funky Four podcast studios today. Doc, before we get started, tell the people where and how they can keep up with you.
You can check me out on Instagram at Dr. Sagal DeCuir, and you can also look me up on Xavier's website, xula.edu, and you can, of course, Google me.
Google her, the world-renowned Dr. Charlene Sinegal DeCuir. She is so humble. She says she is not world-renowned, but I'm telling you, she is. Don't be surprised when you Google her at what pops up. All right, Doc, before we dive into today's topic, who are you giving flowers to while they can still smell them?
Well, I am going to give flowers to my husband, Brandon James DeCuir Sr., my husband of almost 20 years. We'll be celebrating an anniversary in January. And he spoils me. That's all I can say. He puts up with my crazy ways. And I don't even know, because sometimes, you know, us women, we could have two-face in the public. Everybody think I'm so sweet, but at home, they say I'm a monster. But so I just want to give flowers to my husband, because I know putting up with me is not always easy, but I love the fact that he does.
Listen, 1 time for Black love, 2 times for Black love, 3 times for Black love, and 10 times for Black men who are patient with their wives. 10 times. All right, Dr. Sagal DeCuir, the 1994 crime bill. Let's get it.
All right. So, you guys, I know y'all know the 1994 crime bill. It was signed by who we consider to be the first Black president, wink, wink, Bill Clinton. Well, anywho, right. Anyways, it was a Violent Crimes Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. And y'all, when I say it had some issues with it, it caused several problems like mass incarceration, putting African-American men, especially in jail at large numbers for nonviolent crimes. It was a whole lot of things going on. So let's go ahead and get into it. So what did it do? The first thing that it did was it funded law enforcement agencies, right? So it added 100,000 new police officers across the country, right? More police means more policing of African Americans, right? It gave $9.7 billion in grants to local police officers to police. Then it also gave $9.9 billion in funding for new prisons. Okay, so now we have all of these privatized prisons that are making profits off of the backs of lives and ruining the lives of a lot of African American people because of this crime bill, right? Then we had the three strike law, which I'm sure many people are familiar with the three strike laws. It's like you have 3 felony convictions, your third one, and you're put away for basically life. Basically life. Then there was truth in sentencing, which means any state that made their prisoners or felons, the third strike person, serve out 85% of their term, the state was incentivized. So they were given money. So make them, stay in prison long, and we're going to give the state some more funding, right? Then there was the expansion of the death penalty. So there were 60 new charges that was eligible for the death penalty within this bill. Now, one of the good things that came out of this bill was the Violence Act Against Women, right? So the Violence Against Women Act. Of course, that was good because it helped women in terms of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and all of those things. It opened up shelters and gave legal assistance and whatnot. That was a good thing. But everything else, not good at all. There was another little small program that was helpful, which was the gang and youth program. And so it created crime preventative programs. But again, the totality of the bill really increased mass incarceration in the United States. Now, it's not the only thing that increased mass incarceration in the United States. We have to go back and look at the 70s, right, with Nixon. So Nixon was one of the first ones who started with his policies, his war on drugs. And he did that in the 70s. And he did it for a reason, because first of all, he wanted to control African American people. And second, he wanted to control the hippies. So he said African American people were the ones that were putting out all the heroines, and the hippies were the ones that were smoking the weed. So he needed to control those populations because, again, at this time you had the Vietnam War going on and all these protests and whatnot. So he wanted to combat that. So it started there with the war on drugs, marking drugs as a criminal issue and not a health issue. Now it's interesting because today, when you think about it, now that you see a lot of Caucasian people, white people / doing opioids, it's no longer a criminal issue about drugs. It's a health issue about drugs, because when it comes to that population and to the white population, it changes. We don't no longer have a problem with drugs. We got a health issue on our hands. So now they're going to cut back on the sentencing and times and all those things because those people need help. They don't need jail. But we were imprisoned, right, at very, very large numbers. And I have some statistics here because, I did my little research or whatever, and I have some statistics here. Let me go ahead and find this in my notes. 1 second. So anyways, yeah. So here we have it. By 1999, Black Americans made up 13% of the United States population, 35% of drug arrests, 55% of the people were imprisoned for drug offenses. And when we're talking about sentencing and how unfair these sentences was, if you had 5 grams of crack, you did 5 years mandatory time. If you had 500 grams of cocaine, you did 5 years of mandatory time. The same time. So what does that tell you? That tells you that African American people are going to be disproportionately arrested. And then again, this causes a snowball effect in our population, because now we don't have African American men in the neighborhoods and the families, right? We have issues with children in school. We have most of our people are incarcerated. We have issues with people who are felons and how that affects voting rights, right? Because if you're a felon, you can still essentially vote, but you have to go through a long process of gaining your voting rights back, your voting rights back, because most people are not like President Trump, who has, 34, whatever, felony convictions, but can still run the United States. We ain't like that. We don't have billions of dollars. So I'm just going to say the crime bill was terrible for African American people. And just like I have a picture of Bleach in my mind. And, it's like Bleach is good for whites, but it damages color. And that's what the crime bill did for us. It damaged us.
My mind is blown. I never would have thought I will never look at a bottle of bleach the same. Dr. DeCuir, that is an excellent piece of imagery. Let me ask this one question before we get to our game. Beyond critique, what policy, and I know your policy is not necessarily your purview, but in your scholarly perspective, are there any policy frameworks that you believe could constructively address community safety without relying on mass incarceration?
Yes, I think there needs to be policies implemented on rebuilding the African American communities, right? Giving back to our communities and showing pride, elderly pride. We need to go back and listen to the stories of our elderly folks and respect them and their struggle and learn from their struggle, right? And we also need to look at the way the United States is set up and understand that we have to be twice as good as the next person. And we have to also realize that our intelligence is always going to be challenged. But as long as we know the facts behind all of what we are saying, we are never going to be wrong.
That's good. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
That's right.
That's good stuff. All right, Doc, let's play a game before we get out of here. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, either or. I think I know what your answer is for this one already, but let's say it anyway. Community-based intervention or traditional law enforcement approaches?
Community-based intervention.
Yeah, I knew that one. Okay. Agree or disagree that the 94 crime bill was fundamentally rooted in a racist design? Agree or disagree?
I disagree, but it became that.
Yeah. Agree or disagree? Current criminal justice reform efforts sufficiently address the 94 crime bill's lasting damage?
No, disagree.
Okay. Okay. What do you think would give us a more impactful critique of mass incarceration of the bill? This is either or. A gripping documentary or a groundbreaking hip hop album? Which one do you think could really address a cultural critique of the bill?
I would say a documentary.
Okay. All right. So we're going back to 1994. Which one do you think would give us more effective social commentary? A poem from Tupac or a song from Public Enemy?
A poem from Tupac.
Okay. Good stuff. All right, Doc. We're getting ready to get up out of here. But as we do at the end of every episode, we need to prescribe some good medicine from the good doctor. So what do you have for our watchers and listeners today?
Know your rights, fight the power, and keep hope alive. There you go.
Know your rights, fight the power, and keep hope alive. If you are listening to the audio podcast or if you're watching on YouTube, I need you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you to Southern Q and the Juggernaut who tuned in on IG with us. If you're listening to this podcast, be sure to go to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, then tell a friend to tell a friend. Follow us on IG. Follow Dr. Sinegal DeCuir on IG. Make sure that you keep up with us. All right. This is The Network, the educational podcast designed to help you physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially. This has been the funkiest 15 minutes of Black history with Dr. Sinegal DeCuir. My name is Michael Prejean. I am your host. We are out of here. Until next time, I need y'all to do one thing, and that's make love the culture. Peace, y'all.